Well, good evening, everyone. It's good to have you with us tonight. We appreciate you for joining us. Those of you who are coming in, we appreciate that. We're going to record this just so that we can post it on C-Point's page so that they can have a record of these panel discussions. And so that's the purpose for the microphone and stuff like that. And so we don't want anybody to have to yell either. So we appreciate them for coming. And so I'm going to introduce the Honorable Jen Schubert. She's going to be hosting our panel tonight. And so, sorry. And everybody else is going to come up.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We're so glad to have you with us. My name is Jen Schubert. I am a judge in the Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court of Virginia Beach. I've been doing that for about a year and a half. But I am also a professor at C-Point College. I knew I was going to have some sort of faux pas today, and that is it. All right, my one mistake. That's it. I'm done. I am done. So, start over. I am honored to be a professor at C-Point College. I teach American government, and it's been an amazing experience. And I've been with Sarah, Dr. Hummel, since everything started. I'm the chairman of the board as well, so lots of roles there. And I'm honored to bring this to you today. C-Point College is a new college in the area. We have 3 majors, and because I don't want to mess up yet again, I'm going to make sure that I have something to reference. So our majors, it's a Bachelor of Ministry degree, and there are 3 different areas. Leadership is one area, community care is another, and creative arts. And we have lots of professors that are helping our students navigate these, the way that the majors are set out individually. So one of the things that kind of sets C-Point apart from some of the other colleges is that we try to be more individualized in what we offer to our students. Our mission and vision are unique as well. So we are dedicated to what we say is biblical leadership for community care. That is our vision statement. And we are strategically situated in Hampton Roads. We are off of Norview Avenue because we wanted to be a place that could bring all of the different areas together. And so we are really committed to diversity, discipleship, resilience, followership, and communal learning. Those are some of our tenets that we hope to bring to the Hampton Roads area. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is leadership and followership. That is, again, one of our tenets. And I'm going to go ahead and sit down so I can stop towering over everyone. So I want to introduce to you our speakers. And I'm going to go through their bios again so that I don't mess anything up. They are both wonderful, wonderful speakers that we have tonight that are going to really give you their take on this really important subject that we hope to bring to our students, but also to bring to you as well. So I'll start with Dr. Sarah Hummel. She is, again, the founder and president of C-Point College. Thank you. Yep. Over the past 15 years, Dr. Hummel has cultivated a distinguished legacy in the field of education, also in mentoring, and she instills personal values and sound decision-making skills in thousands of individuals from diverse backgrounds and in many organizations within the Hampton Roads community. Her passion lies in nurturing the next generation of multicultural leaders through a holistic approach that encompasses both formal education, mentorship, and active engagement within the community. She holds a master's degree in organizational leadership from Regent University, which is complemented by her doctorate in strategic leadership with an emphasis in ecclesial leadership, also from Regent. She's very, very smart, you guys. Super smart. A lot of books went into all of that. In her personal life, Dr. Hummel enjoys a meaningful partnership with her amazing husband, Dave, and they have had that relationship for over 23 years. And together, they are the proud parents of 3 children. So, thank you again, Dr. Hummel, for being with us. All right, our next distinguished speaker tonight is Legend. Legend is a full-time rap artist, songwriter, motivational speaker, preacher, and podcaster who uses art and connection to communicate the gospel to the culture. This is a very busy man right here. Legend is his first name, Nigel, spelled backwards, because Christ turned his life around. And that is one of the things that really sets him apart. Yep, awesome. He also, if that wasn't enough, he co-founded the anti-human trafficking organization called the Safe House Project. He also runs a nonprofit called Expect Renaissance, and he's performed and spoken across the U.S., in the UK, South Africa, and Kenya. He is also a Maxwell certified leadership speaker, and we'll get that. We'll get a little more information on what that means as well. Legend is a proud father to his 2 children, and he's been married to his high school sweetheart for 17 years, and he resides in Virginia Beach. So, thank you for being here. All right. So, leadership and followership. That is the topic that we are talking about tonight. And so I want to start things off. Let me give you a little bit of information about the format first. We've got these broken up into some mini topics. And after each topic, we're going to ask the audience if you have any questions. So as we're talking, feel free to set aside in your mind any questions that you'd like to ask. We'll call it out, and then I'll repeat it over the mic so we can have it for the recording. But we really do want this to be interactive. These two have both extensively studied these topics and also have real-world experience to bring to the table with for you tonight. So be thinking about that, and please interact as much as we can have at that point. So we're going to start with this question: leadership and followership. What is it?
I want to lay out a few things that'll set the tone, I think, and then we can get into some of the nitty-gritty. So leadership has been a topic that's been around since the beginning of time, since people were leading people. And in the beginning, there was more a concept of what makes a good leader. Well, you're tall and you're good looking, so you should be the leader. And that's, right, Pastor Jimmy.
Problem solved. Problem solved.
So that's the beginning of what leadership theory was. It's known as trait theory. Certain traits make you a good leader. And there was also in that time period great man theory. Oh, you're a great man, so you should be the leader. And as time has gone on and researchers have followed actual social dynamics over time, we've moved into other types of leadership. So, obviously there's like autocratic leadership, and dictatorships, those type of leadership theories and models. But what has been really gaining momentum over time is different Christ-like leadership styles. And even the world is finding that when you use Christ-like characteristics in your leadership style, it makes a difference in your followers and in the organization that you're running. So you might have heard terms like transformational leadership, authentic leadership, servant leadership. These are more Christ-like styles of leadership. Now, the leadership theory and research has gone into this, what I think is the culmination of all of it, and something that's the most effective, which is the concept of followership. Because followership really takes the pressure and the focus off of just the leader and empowers the followers to have their role to play. When you look at leadership research, you see that you're really focusing on the leader. But when you're looking at followership, you're putting the emphasis on the leader and the follower equally. And I'm going to use the whiteboard for a second to kind of give you a demonstration here. So in some leadership styles, the leader is being circled by the followers, right? So you have a leader, and the leader has their ideas, and the followers are just circling what the leader wants. In followership, you have the mission of the organization, and then you have the leader and the followers circling the mission. So you have the leader, and you have the followers. So what's different about this is we all have an agreement and an understanding of what we're trying to do as an organization, whether it's a church, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's in the public sector, and we're all going to agree together on what the mission is, and we're going to hold each other accountable for where we're going together as we work out the mission together. So the leader is there to have the final say, or to cast the vision, or to make the final decision on something. But the followers have the ability to hold the leader accountable if the leader is getting off mission. So this is just a really important concept that makes such a difference, because we have to start thinking in these terms. What does the leader need to do to help the followers be more empowered to be able to hold them accountable? What are the skill sets that they need? And so we're going to get into some of this stuff, but that's what we're talking about when we're talking about followership. Good?
Yeah, I love what you were saying about how theories and study and so. Hello, by the way. I haven't said hi to you guys yet. Good to see everybody. Y'all good? Y'all looking good? Turn to the person next to you and say, man, you're looking good. You're looking good. Online, you're looking good too. Thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here, and we've been looking forward to this for some time. My friend, I always refer to all of her titles. My friend, Dr. President Founder Sarah Hummel, when she pointed out how all of the research is just catching up to Scripture, right? Like, it's just catching up to what God said the whole time. Even thinking of this, like, so Jesus is obviously, went to church, right? Jesus is the mission. Yes, would you agree? Yes? So Jesus is the mission. He says, you call me Lord and Master because that's what I am. Like, he made that, for, But then immediately once Jesus leaves, nobody fills those shoes because he's the mission, right? So everybody else is serving that mission. And Paul, who you would argue, who's written most of the New Testament, he goes on to say, look, if an angel or me shows up and says something different, get me out of here, because the mission is more important than everything else. So that's been what it is since day one in the gospel, right? But us in our humanity, we start to take things and try to fill roles we weren't supposed to fill, and you see corporations and schools and governments that fail because of that. So it's a beautiful thing to watch the theory start to follow. It only took them 2,000 years to catch up to what Jesus is saying. I think that's beautiful. That's it. That's all I had.
All right, with that just being our introduction, any introductory questions, things that have been said thus far that you want a little bit more info on right now? Obviously, we're going to unpack it a little bit more as we go along, but any initial questions? If not, I have one. All right. All right. So I was going to ask can you give us some practical examples? And can you also bring it into the non-church aspect of things? How does that look like for those of us who aren't in ministry, so to speak, quote unquote, vocational ministry? What does that look like?
So it looks like seeing people as valuable assets, not as people to just get the work done that you want to get done as a leader. So as a leader, it's seeing people as valuable assets. As a follower, it's seeing yourself as a valuable asset and recognizing that you are the person, probably as a follower, who has their finger on the pulse of the organization. Usually it's the followers who are working with the people on the ground. It's usually the followers who are working with the products or understand the different complexities. Maybe you're the one that's taking the customer service questions. So as a follower, you really should feel confident and empowered to be able to speak up and to speak into the mission of the organization. In a real life example, A leader should have a group of followers that they meet with and they talk with and they get around the mission together. They assess what they're seeing, what changes should we make. Sometimes leaders can tend to feel the need to hold all the pressure, hold all the facts themselves to maybe not cause pressure on the followers, or maybe they're a little bit power hungry, or they can't give up some of the things that they're seeing. But when a leader can give away some power, when a leader can let the followers speak in, they're going to be able to see that innovation can increase. They're going to be able to see that the followers have the details that they might need to maybe make some of the changes that need to be made. So a leader allowing himself to be, or herself to be, accountable for the mission, and also sharing the information that's necessary. So leaders need to talk to the followers. Here's some of the issues we're seeing. Here are some of the problems with that. Because a follower is going to get really frustrated when they're saying, we have this issue and this is always coming up and we should make a change with this, and the leader is just going, no, 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 we can't make that change, we can't make that change, we can't make that change, but they're not explaining why. If they explain, we can't make that change because XYZ thing, well, that empowers the follower to go, okay, great, good to know, what about it if we did it this way? So it looks like informing, empowering, dialoguing, trusting, working together for the good of the mission and for the good of each other.
I think it looks like serving people that you don't have to serve in your position. You know what I mean? I used to sell insurance, and my mentor was a guy we all looked up to. This guy was residual, making $1 million a year, whether he sold another policy or not. We all looked up to him. He was a great guy. He was fun to be with. He would drive hours and hours down to come to our office to hang out with a bunch of 19-year-old nobodies. And we had a lot more important people to meet with. And he would take us all out to eat, ask us how we're doing, ask us how things are going in the office, what could his organization be doing better. And he wasn't asking our boss, well, maybe he was, but he asked us too. And one of the things, he took a life principle from him about service that I never forgot. I don't even know if he was a believer, went to church. We would go out to eat, and the very first thing he would do was he would ask the waiter or waitress his name, because nobody asked him. And he said, I was like, why you ask their name? He said, because nobody asked them their name all day. That's why I asked them their name. So they asked them their name, and then he would shake their hand with about a $20 bill in it and just say, hey, thank you, and thank you for everything you're doing. He would tip them before he ordered anything. And just a small amount of like, your job is to serve me, but I want to beat you to that and serve you first. And how it changed the dynamic of the room. It changed our value of this person over here. We're trying to hang out with the guy making $1 million. I'll just bring me my food so I can get over here. And he made us redirect our gaze to the person that nobody was trying to really talk with and show us that the value was over here. And what he did for us in showing us this is how I'm going to be a leader. I'm stepping down from my position to lift somebody else up that I don't have to lift up. It showed us this thing where we wanted to follow him at first because we wanted what he had. And as we saw who he was, we wanted to follow him because we wanted to be who he was. And what I've learned in leadership and followership is that if you follow somebody if somebody follows you because they have to, you're a boss, right? They need the check, you know, they work for you, what they got. But if somebody follows you because they want to, you're a leader. There's a difference.
Don't drop the mic, but don't actually drop it, but just pretend, because that was amazing. Okay, amazing. All right. Any questions about that before we move on? My questions lead to any other questions. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the types of followers. In this concept, there are different, obviously, lots and lots of different types of people. We all have different personalities and persuasions and backgrounds and, you know, cultural diversity, all kinds of diversity. So can we talk a little bit about the categories generally that we have put together, that the research has put together in this particular context.
Yes, ma'am. I follow Sarah because I want to, just so you know. She tells me to hold the mic, I'm going to hold the mic.
All right, Robert Kelly is a researcher well-known in followership, and he put together this really helpful diagram. So I'm going to kind of spell it out for you as I talk. So you have sort of a Johari window of independent thinkers and dependent thinkers, and then passive and active. So these are the types of followers. There's the alienated follower over here, who is an independent thinker, but they're pretty passive. Then there's the sheep. They're dependent and passive. The yes man, or yes person, I guess is more appropriate, is active and dependent. And then you have the actual effective leader here. In the middle, you just have someone who's a survivor. Thank you. All right, so independent and passive. This person is alienated. They just feel like they don't belong. They're just sticking around to get the paycheck. They don't get along with anyone. They don't understand why anything's happening, and they don't speak up. They're just really passive, but they're an independent thinker. So they realize, I don't really agree with what's going on here, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to kind of isolate myself. The sheep is super dependent on the leader, but too passive to say anything or speak up. So they're just going to follow along with whatever's going on. They're not going to say anything. They're just going to go with what's happening. They feel part of the crowd. They feel part of the group. They feel like they belong, but they're just staying really dependent on everyone around them and their leader. So the yes person is very active. They're actively engaged. They want to be a part of things, and they want their voice heard, but they're super dependent on their leader, so they're not willing to say anything against the leader. So they're just going to say yes to everything, and they're going to try to get everybody else to say yes to everything. The survivor in the middle is sort of doing all the different things. They're conforming as they go, trying to make sure that they are in the right place, in the right pocket. But what we want to be and what we want to have as leaders is effective followers. So that's someone who is an independent thinker, but they're also actively engaged. They're critically thinking about the issue at hand. They understand the mission. They feel ownership of the mission of the organization. They're in conversation with each other. They're thinking about the things that are happening in the organization that they're seeing from their vantage point. They're asking questions. They're having open dialogue with their colleagues and with their leader to get as much information as possible. The leader's sewing into them to give them the professional development and the understanding of all the different elements of the organization and the types of things that they might need to know in order to be an effective follower. And that is the type of follower that's going to help move an organization forward, help make the organization healthy, the culture healthy, and help the organization be stronger as a whole.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about do you know the answer to this question? Let me think about it first. Hold on. What's the most common? What do you think is the most common that we see in churches today? And I think in every aspect of life you're going to see all of them, but is there any trend that we're seeing? Or is it still kind of all over the place?
Without any numbers and research behind it, I guess it would depend on the culture of the church or the organization. Like I know certain cultures of church where yes people would be more prominent. Like I was in a situation where that was just what it was. Pastor said this, everybody did that, the end of story. And you obviously see some CEOs, some corporate situations, some political situations where that's the case as well. So it just kind of depends on the culture of said organization. I think the effective followers would you have to answer this with the research, would probably be what is the least, but I would imagine that is what people are striving towards, because we're in this cultural cycle that you can typically track every 60 or so years or whatever, where culture's starting to buck against authority, leadership. Everybody's distrusting of all sides for bad but mostly good reasons, but people are searching for that but don't know how to get there and don't have a pathway towards what they're feeling they need. So I would imagine that's probably the most desired but also the least prevalent. But that's my guess.
I'll agree with you and add that it's very hard to be a leader who makes effective followers. You have to be very confident in yourself. You have to trust the people around you. You have to be comfortable with diverse thought. There's actually a book that I love, which is Increasing Your Cultural Agility by Paula Caligari. And she talks about the concept of understanding how to be comfortable in the middle of novelty, like something that's new. She talks about being curious. She talks about understanding how to listen more than you talk. So all of these different concepts and competencies will help someone be able to cultivate this effective followership type of a style. But it really takes the leader putting in the work and humbling themselves before God and humbling themselves in front of their followers and building this relationship of trust to be able to have the effective followers. That's why it's so difficult to do. And there has to be some grace for both sides as you're working through it. You have to really feel like you're on a team and you're working toward this together, because it's like dancing, you're gonna step on each other's toes. And so a culture of respect and kindness and love and understanding and wanting the best for the other person is what it's gonna take to be able to keep it going. And when you're under pressure to meet a deadline or to do something that needs to get done, you still have to maintain this tight ability with each other. And it just it's not the fast way to get things done, in other words.
The honorable.
In churches today, what's our biggest challenge with this type of follower? Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah, I agree with that as well. And for the folks online, just to recap quickly, the concept is that the sheep or the yes person are really in the church most recently what we see a lot of. That's kind of how a lot of churches teach their their sheep to be. Or it's just how it has developed. But the new generations coming up are much more independent in a lot of ways than our generation was, and so that is going to definitely impact, their behavior in the church. One of the reasons why C Point started is because there's a statistic about young people leaving the church. I remember that from some of the research that we did, that today more and more young people, they just don't believe in going to a traditional church going to church on a Sunday, doing that. They may be online, or they may be nothing at all, or they create, some other form of it. And so they are very willing to step outside of the box and be more independent and active. And so this is the time that I think is appropriate to educate them on that and come around that. And for those of us who were raised in, kind of the other way, this is our opportunity to learn more about it and let them teach us as well. So,
how many of you guys, just to gauge the room a bit, how many of you guys would define yourself as a leader in some right, by a show of hands? Oh, beautiful. Okay. Could two or three of you just kind of tell me like what you lead, where that comes from, why you would define yourself as a leader? Anybody whose hand went up? Yes, ma'am. Children's pastor and mentor? And big sister? Perfect. Yes, sir. Awesome. Nice. Okay. So worship team, singing in open mics, social media leadership. Beautiful, man. Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am. Excellent. So nursing professor, nursing leadership, leading the next generation of nurses. Yes, sir, you'll be our last one. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Got you. So family leadership is where you see yourself setting the example in the family. Okay, beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much, everybody. I love that because it's like a wide example. You've got church ministry, you've got in the community at open mics, you've got nursing, medical, you've got family. All of these things are beautiful because like the simplest definition of leadership is that it is influence. If you have influence over a person or group of people, you are by default a leader, right? What I've found is the reason why a lot of leaders are struggling, I think in some cases, lots of unhealthy leadership I've experienced, with doing a lot of the things that Jen and Sarah are saying up here, is a lot of leaders struggle with asking their followers about what they think should happen because they're afraid of vulnerability or not having all the answers or not looking like the one everyone should come to. Would you agree? Have you ever experienced leadership by that? By just, so that is the problem with the leadership structure that our culture is set up, is that the person at the top has to be the master of all the things. And in any relationship, in any organization, you have to have a DTR moment, a define the relationship moment. Like, this is the man or woman who, whatever they say goes, and they make the decision, and that's that. And that can be true at the same time while that person is stepping out of their position and saying, hey, what do you think? Did I make a bad decision the other day? How'd that meeting go? How are things going here? Like, how are we serving you poorly here? Like, that leader can step down and ask those questions without it having any bearing on their leadership. It actually enforces their leadership. But people are afraid of looking like they don't have all the answers or they're not worth the paycheck they're getting. So they won't even ask questions, and things just, there's a huge disconnect between the quote unquote follower and the leader that way. I think if leaders are allowed or they understand the importance of vulnerability, of saying, listen, I don't have all the, I know I've got this position, I don't have all the answers. That's why I need you guys. It galvanizes the army of followers to feel empowered and want to support a leader who empowers them. When it goes back to serving when you didn't have to. So I think if leaders are able to offer that vulnerability, it just not only, it reinforces the very thing that we're afraid they were going to lose. It gives them the thing that they thought they were going to lose if they do the thing they're afraid to do. And that's just a countercultural way of being a servant leader.
And it sounds to me like you're talking a little bit about shared identity, which is a concept that is the opposite of groupthink. And I'm going to ask Sarah to explain a little bit more about that to everybody. What does that look like, and how does that impact organizations when that is happening?
That's a really good question, because when you start getting into this concept of followership, people start getting nervous about, oh, well, I don't want to tell people how to think, but we do have to have some sort of shared identity. There does have to be a mission that we're all circling around. There has to be elements where we are working together, doing the same thing together, having the same goals, having the same vision. So that's where you have shared identity. And studies show that when you create some shared identity, just like at this church, every church has a different identity. They have different missions. They're doing different initiatives. When you have a shared identity, studies show that you are going to be stronger together, you're going to get more things done, you're going to be able to be going in the same direction. The difference between shared identity and groupthink is, in groupthink, you're told what to believe, you're told that you're not allowed to have a different opinion, and you are even to the point where you're questioning yourself and you're silencing yourself. So you might think, oh, I don't really agree with the direction that we're going here, or I don't really agree that this suits the mission very well, or I think I should speak up because there's someone that's actually being hurt by this, what we're trying to do. But no one else is speaking up, everyone else is going along with it. Maybe I am the one that's wrong. Maybe I shouldn't say anything. And so groupthink is silencing yourself. Shared identity is speaking up for the identity and the mission of the group and moving along together in the same direction.
So Legend, what do I do if I'm not a strong challenger? If my general personality is more of a go with the flow, avoid conflict, I like to be passive in some things, and maybe it's not bad enough, or that type of thing. What would you say to folks that really kind of have that more of a personality bent towards that when they may find themselves in a groupthink position?
I'm definitely that way. I don't like conflict. I don't like the ruffle feathers. I'm not that type of person. It's just not my wiring. I admire people that just bull in the China shop, whatever they got to say. Like, I'm like, I want to be like that. I'm not at all. I think what I've learned is if I'm in a situation where something has to be challenged, something has to be brought up, something has to be discussed, it's not easy. I try to do, number one, I'm really big on connecting with people. Because just saying what you need to say and throwing it against the wall because you said the truth and they got to deal with it just doesn't work, and it bounces off people and creates a further divide. For example, if there's a tough conversation, I just kind of go with the sandwich theory. It's hey, I need to say something. I need to talk to you, well, then bring up something positive, not to placate you and not to butter you up and not to whatever, but something I genuinely mean as a person, like I really admire you about this. Here's a challenge that I have, and I think this is detrimental, and I really want to bring this to your attention, and we need to fix this. But again, I really respect and honor you, and how can I help? Like that is a whole different situation than, hey man, this sucks and you need to fix it because it's your, you know what I mean? Like, it's a totally different type of method. So that's just a really practical, like, I need to have a conversation with you, but how can I do this in a way where you'll hear what I have to say? It's a sandwich method of like 2 layers of like of respect and honor and lifting you up, and then here's the meat in the middle that I really want to talk about today. And as simple as that is, I've just watched it work time and time again to be able to speak to people and bring things up that, you know, if you're in a groupthink situation you're not supposed to do, people are legit like, well, I respect that because you actually brought it to my attention. Nobody else said anything. Thank you. I want to listen to you now. So I've seen that happen a lot.
Very helpful. I'm the same way. Surprisingly enough, people are very surprised when I tell them how much I like to avoid conflict. I'm a problem solver, but I prefer to do it behind the scenes, and maybe tell someone else to do it, and then watch them do it, and then yeah, exactly, yeah. Early will do it. My husband will do it. Somebody else will do it, and yeah, for sure. So okay. So we've talked a lot about followers, what followers look like, the kind of different types of followers. Let's shift the focus a little bit on leaders. Sarah, you alluded to this earlier as far as kind of different types of leaders, leadership styles, things like that. And so I want to get into some of those types of leaders, what they kind of look like, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and after we talk a little bit about the types.
Well, I guess there's different leadership styles that I mentioned. I'm going to try to answer what you're looking for. Authentic leadership theory is just be really authentic with people, and that's a good quality. Transformational leadership is about helping to transform the lives of the people around you. Servant leadership is taking that a next step and really serving the people around you. There's good qualities in all of those things. I think where they fall short is, for example, a transformational leader may be transforming you into something that you don't want to be. Hitler was a transformational leader. And so if you think about it in that context, you want to be careful that you're not just transforming people into what you're thinking is good and causing everyone just to go along with what you're talking about. And servant leadership really is a great concept, and Jesus is our example of serving others, and I think that you have to have that component. But just serving people is not the same thing necessarily as lifting them up, empowering them, giving them the skill sets and the tools that they need to be able to speak back into your life and have a say in what the mission is. So I think that's why followership is just so much more holistically applicable.
Legend, this question is for you. As far as these different types of leadership styles, say someone here really identifies as one style. Can they change that? Should they change that? What would that look like? And what are the things that you see going into someone's leadership style that people just need to take into consideration as they're kind of figuring out what they are and what they should be?
So is this helpful? Is this conversation helpful for you guys? Has it been fruitful? Okay, good. I just want to make sure it's fruitful. I think see, the kids like it. I think yeah. I mean, it's anything's possible to change. There's this idea of 21 days for habits and all that, but I've recently heard a little bit about some neuroplasticity stuff about how your brain cells renew themselves every 90 days and all this. And you're a nurse, and you probably know this a whole lot better than me. Brain cells they renew every 90 days. And so as you're starting to walk in a new path, and when your brain cells renew, that's kind of locked into your neural pathways. This is what we're doing now. then that happens over 3 cycles and then 3 years, and like you totally transform and change in your method of thinking and what you're doing and your default modes of stuff. So long story short, just over time, yeah, of course you can change in how you're doing it. If you follow the pathways of this world as a leader, you can become, autocratic and bossy and whatever and think that's what you're supposed to do. But if you follow the pathway of Christ, whether it's as I would say, plain glass or stained glass, whether it's in the church or it's in an organization that's not a church, you take this model of my job here as the senior leader in this area is to wash the feet of the people that are here. And that's a totally different method of thinking. One of the ways that I've personally experienced like the followership method, which Dr. Founder President Sarah Hummel's talking about, is, and you got to say all the titles every time, is we've been friends 15 years, like it's fun. One of the ways that I've personally experienced that, we're talking about this over the phone in preparation for the night, is when I had the privilege to start this organization called Safe House Project, and I didn't have any framework for that before it started. It just kind of came out of surprise, out of nowhere, that we need to build this house for this one community in South Africa that really needs it, and I need all hands on deck. I put a bunch of stuff on hold, and we just started to rally the troops to raise funds, and a couple of really great people came alongside, said, I don't care what I need to do, just tell me what to do. And I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna make an album about it and get the album out and email some folks. And Christy went nuts doing that, and then Brittany's coming on board, and they're like, well, what if we did a 5K race? And I'm like, sure, let's do it. Don't make me run, but let's do it. And they started to just go crazy with this. Unbeknownst to me, they'd been dreaming about this separately for 10 plus years, about fighting for this as a nationwide movement. I just saw it one need and I got impassioned for it, but God brought some people around me that had been dreaming about it. And so when they said, what do we do to make this a nationwide organization and really like change things here in America with this, they came to me with a vision, like, what do you think? And I was like, I totally think y'all should run it and I should step back, because this seems like God is doing something here. And I stepped back and let them step up as CEO and COO, and we're all co-founded it together on the American side of it, and it's blowing up right now. And I had some board members that were like, bro, do not step away from this. You need to be on, this is gonna be, and they meant well, because they were like, they were making the right decision. I was just like, I don't know, man, I think God is telling me to sit back and they need to fly with this, because God is blessing them. And it's going great. We were at the fundraiser last week, and it's like, my God, how did it get this big? We just made one rap album, and now look at this. And that's followership. That's like, hey, you're better at this than me. God has something for you here. I'm gonna step back. I'm gonna empower you, and I don't need to be known for this. How can I help you, right? How can I help you flourish here? Even if I get pushed out of my job, you need to do this. This is good for you. That's a whole different method of, I gotta protect what's mine and hold you back so that I can keep my pension in check. That's a whole different method, right? So yes, ma'am, coming right to you in just a second. So there's one idea I have to start to change this. Well, actually, it's a model of mentorship somebody gave me that I thought a few minutes ago might be helpful. It was, what is a general model of mentorship, empowering, and giving away to somebody else? And then we're coming right to you, ma'am. It says, maybe you've heard this before, it's a little square. I do, you watch. I do, you help. You do, I help. You do, I watch. And you work yourself out of a job for the benefit of said person. Does that make sense? Is that helpful? Yes, ma'am. You about to say something?
Yes, so.
Yes, sir. I would just say this too, like, Jen first, and then you, sir. Yes. I would just say, thank you. Yes, absolutely. I appreciate that a lot. The funny thing about that situation was I had this like passionate, burning vision that we have to get this thing done. And then God brought people around me who I think, maybe I'm gifted in like vision and like arts, but they were way more gifted than me in all these other things. And I was like, I am not good at these 7 things you guys are great at. So instead of trying to hold on to this thing so I can get credit, let me just step back and just let you guys flourish. And maybe there was a hint of insecurity and realism in that. Like, You guys are really good. I need to get out y'all way. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that, and yeah, I hope we could be more like that.
Yeah, for the folks online, essentially, she was saying it was a great example of transformational leadership, and I would say it's also a great example of the followership leadership style as well, because you were transparent with folks, and that's really one of the tenets that we're talking about, is you have to be willing as a leader to say, I don't have all the answers, and open yourself up to other options, instead of, like you said, just kind of holding it in there. So did we have another question back there? Right. Right. Yep, absolutely. You give them the opportunity and it gets pulled out of them from that. So that kind of leads into what we were going to talk a little bit more about as far as this concept, and that is the question of when things grow to a point. I mean, this sounds like a lot of work, and you said that earlier. This is a lot of work. This takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of intention. So do you have any practical tips for folks here who are looking to kind of implement some of these things, but maybe they have a lot of people that are in their follower category, and how do they figure out how to manage all of that and do all of that when they have maybe a bigger group?
I think, Nigel Legend hit it on the head. His name is both. When you're thinking of in terms of mentorship, and if you have a large organization, you want to try to figure out how to get it small. So you might have a group, like Jesus had his 12 disciples, and he had the 3 he was closest with, and he had the 72. And so you want to build a culture intentionally around something by getting in people's world, talking out these concepts, helping them understand it, helping them feel comfortable with it, so that they can turn around and have a group of people that they can do it with. So you just want to think in terms of, I'm building an intentional culture. I'm not going to be able to hear from everyone individually, although I think you should be able to make yourself available if someone needs to talk to you. But empower the people around you to be able to operate in this followership. It shouldn't just be you by yourself doing followership as a leader and everyone else is just the follower. Like, you have to empower people to also be leaders.
I would say I think it's super important, like Sarah said it 3-4 times, to get diverse thought intentionally around you. It's really important to get diverse thought. People that you wouldn't hang out with, that you wouldn't spend time with, that aren't going to make their way into your social circles, that if you don't, it's important to just have folks around you who think different, have different cultures, look different, vote different, not for the all the divisive causes that people normally fuss at each other on Instagram about, but because if you're in a different network, surrounded by folks who think differently, you literally bring different thought to and situation and solution you're trying to fix. It's got nothing to do with the social or moral or conviction stuff. It's just, hey, you think different about this. I want to know what you think. I want to learn and be stretched by you. But we're afraid typically sometimes to get outside of those boxes that are personal to us and our convictions, because we're afraid we're now endorsing a line of thought that somebody may agree with, when in reality you can be stretched on something that has nothing to do with any of those things. So I think it's super important. So like if you look at just at your social circles, the people that you lead, the people that you work with, your family, and there's a line of thought that you don't have, then find a way, is there somebody like at your job that's like, man, you know what? You guys take out for coffee. We don't really know each other that well. And just hang out with somebody you wouldn't hang out with, and just see what God does in that moment. It could be you have a lifeline to another trend of thought that you wouldn't have had otherwise, because most of the folks around you consume, listen to, and think the same way, so you kind of get in the same silo of thinking. I mean, there's so many other aspects of thinking. Again, not speaking about convictions, just about solutions we want to bring to our organization, leadership. How do we galvanize people? How do we serve this segment of the population better? I've got these limited number of ideas, and so does everybody around me, because we all kind of think the same. What do you think about that? And then just bring that into your sphere, your convictions, and find out how to serve. Does that make sense? That makes sense? I just really think it's important to get diverse thought around you on purpose.
Yeah, that's great. Any questions at this point? All right. Anybody else have a question? Oh, you have a comment? Okay. Absolutely. It's folks in the tough positions there that, you know, we don't give enough credit to you. So thank you definitely for your service. And hopefully some of the things, you know, today that we're talking about will help you each in your situation. And that actually leads great into my next question, which is really about why. Why does it matter? Why hit home to us as far as, you know, why should we apply these concepts? What is the outline for the basics on why we should do this?
Again, Legend hit it in one concept, which is you want diverse thought, because we each only have our own finite amount of ideas that we can have. And so if we're not opening up our circles and listening to other ideas and listening to other perspectives, then our organization is limited. And you can see that in the organizational research when organizations are just very limited in what they're willing to do and where they're willing to go, and they're not willing to open up their perspective on options and diverse thought and diverse concepts, then it causes businesses to fail. I mean, we can all think of different businesses that have failed. But as a Christian, I love to think about in 1 Corinthians, where it talks about every part of the body is important, and the people who are the weakest should be honored the most, and the people who are in the most need should be protected the most. The Bible talks to us about thinking outside the box of who else should I be paying attention to. The least of these need to be considered. And it's too often that the person in the position of authority wants to just make the decisions and call the shots and hold all the power, and not consider the people who are in the more oppressive or weaker position. And as Christians, it's our responsibility to look out for the weaker person.
Pass the plate. Pass the plate. Got that? Yeah, man. Look, hey. So I agree with Sarah. I have a really fundamental clinging to and dedication to the Imago Dei. Like it's really important to me. Too. Oh, sweet. We gonna watch Netflix? I got a movie I gotta finish. I got like 20 minutes left. I was getting excited. Anyway, I really cling to the Imago Dei. Like it's incredibly important to me to cling to the image of God. It's Genesis 1. It's right there. And I think somebody said that the longest journey in the world is the 18 inches from the head to the heart, right? You can know it, but do you know it, right? And we know that every human being we see is created with dignity, value, and worth. We know that. In practice, though, we're not really good at it. You know what I mean? And I want to just say that I've mastered this because I know what page 1 of the Bible says, but I'm still working on it. I've got lines I draw with, if you cross this line, I now devalue you some. And I'll be the first to admit that. You don't have to, I'll do it for you. So I think that I've got to fundamentally every day remind myself that every human being I come across, no matter what they have, don't believe, don't believe, whatever, is Jesus stretched his arms out and died for that person because they mattered that much to him. You know what I mean? And I can simultaneously believe that without accepting, endorsing, affirm. I can believe both of these can be true. So therefore, when I'm in a leadership position or I'm in an opportunity to influence, I have to carry that with me into this room, into this meeting, into this opportunity, and not let go of it no matter what happens. I have to have this conversation. I have to lead and serve. I have to share the truth that's hard in this. I have to have this difficult conversation with that in mind at the same time, and I can't let it go. That's something that I fight to do in any situation, particularly the hard ones. I have to remember Jesus stretched his arms out and died for this person. So I can't walk in here and feel or look at them as less than, no matter what the conversation is, even though I've got to say this tough thing. You know what I mean? So I think if the reason it's important to me is because if science and research is finally catching up to what Jesus has been saying the whole time, if we can finally catch up to that in all of its holistic glory, right, not embracing one part and dropping another, we can actually start to see the value of people who normally get devalued for whatever reason, because they don't fit this box, this social sphere, this economic whatever, national thing, whatever. If we can just start to live that way, a lot of things would change, and we wouldn't find platforms and scriptures to back up antichrist things in the way we treat people. So if, one example is that I was in a week, 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege to just go and be with some good friends, well, some new friends in Nashville. We're doing some songwriting in Nashville, and I'm just with a bunch of folks I didn't know. Everybody was pleasant. We were all friends. There was no need for devaluing. But as far as I know, I was one of the few folks that held my worldview there. And we were there to write some songs that were very general. And so, and as we're writing the songs, people started talking about different things and what they believed, and situations turned around to like life things and moral things and faith things and God things. And I'm like, we had built this rapport to where I was able to, for an hour, just expand on gospel things that just weren't part of the conversation. That's not what we were there for. And I was like, I have to take this time because this person right here, this isn't just for me to just spout off what I believe. This person is made in the image of God. And if this is one of the few opportunities they have to have this conversation, the way somebody had it with me, stop the music. Let's do this now because I don't want you to leave without this. So at least you can leave with this message, and then maybe God may do something when we leave. So I'm just saying that to say, yes, sir, that if we can carry this type of thought into our followership, leadership, we can just see a lot of change in how we treat and value people, and that's super duper important.
Absolutely. And that's really to me, the whole concept of what she drew before, where if you all have the same mission, right? If the focus is the mission, then the focus is not a person. The focus is we're all agreed. We have this shared mission that we have agreed is what we are aiming for, then you're working together. It is a team effort. It is a partnership. It is not a you against me. It is we are in this together. And that makes it just a different perspective, I think, from that. So, all right, I'm going to give you each the opportunity to address anything you think we haven't covered yet, that you think you just really want the folks to know about these topics, or about where to go from here, or one last thing that you think is a great thing for them to be thinking about as they walk out today.
I think first, I hope that you all feel some new level of confidence in yourself as a follower and what that role is, and a new level of confidence to not have to know everything as a leader, and to be able to feel comfortable giving away some power if that's within your abilities. This is a topic that has so many layers and so many facets. I'm teaching a class next semester at C Point called Leadership Theory and Practice that gets really into the nitty-gritty of this, and it goes through all the different types of leadership theories, and it also has elements of practice, and it has a huge spiritual leadership component. So if you're interested, you can take the class. The schedule is over here on the table. We also have a leadership degree that has a lot of different courses that go through different layers of this, and how to implement it in a healthy and effective way. I think anyone who's in a leadership position should get some type of formal training in leadership. We don't just grow up and know how to lead. I mean, we're kind of finding our way and figuring it out as we go. But if you can get some real formal leadership training through a book, or through a class, or through a degree, I think it's really valuable, because when you're a leader, you are holding influence and you are holding power over people, and you don't want to take that lightly. You don't want to accidentally oppress or suppress someone in a way that causes them to be hurt. So one book that I would recommend if you just wanted to start with a book is Courageous Followership, or Courageous Followers by Ira Chaleff. It's Chaleff. That's one of my favorite books on followership. And then Legend's going to do a one-day workshop at C Point on January 13th. I'll let him describe it a little bit more, but it's going to be based on donation, and we're inviting different churches, different church leaders, whatever level of leadership that you're in, to come in and discuss this on a deeper level. And it's just our way of sewing back into the community and into church and organizational leaders, because this is a tenet of C Point College, because I believe very much in the importance of this being understood. I think it's going to serve our community better. I think it's going to make stronger leaders, and I think it's going to help the young people stop leaving the church and feel more empowered to build the church, which is what God's asked them to do. And so the more we can get this into people's heads and hearts and understanding, the more we can make a difference in this community, and instead of finding ways to oppress and suppress people, find ways to empower and uplift them.
Yes. I'm going to piggyback on that. That was for early. All right. I totally agree with Sarah. I think, it's everything that's important requires intentionality. You know what I mean? Including leadership. Like Sarah said, it's not automatic. We don't fall into it. We grow into it. So I highly recommend reading, taking classes. It's two things, like with churches will think that somebody that has, churches confuse good theology with good leadership. You know what I mean? Right? Because you know Scripture, you can explain a thing. Doesn't mean that you are good at leading people. So the intentionality with digging into Scriptures and going through church rituals and rhythms which are good, is the same intentionality we need to put at leading the people God has called us to disciple. Organizations do the same thing. They think big positions equal good leadership. Good positions mean that, and it's not the same. You got a job doesn't mean you got good leadership skills. So I highly recommend the book that she recommended. I was going to recommend just one book, but your comment gave me a couple ideas. So I'll throw a few at you that I really enjoyed. That one book that I would recommend from Maxwell is kind of a standard. You probably heard it, read about it. 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership is a standard. Like when you were talking earlier, sir, about, you've got a cap as far as you can grow, but there's all this wisdom around you God has placed. It had me think about the law of the lid that he speaks about in that book, that you can only grow as far as your lid is, and that's where your organization is capped at, unless you have other leaders around that can help you out. So that's a fantastic book. But to your comment about Jesus' leadership style, if that's of interest, there are two books I think are fantastic, simple reads, but really eye-opening for me, with The Leadership Lessons of Jesus and Jesus CEO. Just two really good books about how Jesus ran the Father's business. You know what I mean? So The Leadership Lessons of Jesus and Jesus CEO, and one of my personal favorites that we will be speaking about at C Point on January 13th, and again it's donation based, all to support the college, is called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. Everyone communicates, few connect, and the basic premise is if you can teach the principles of connecting with somebody one-on-one, small group, or large group, you can change everything, because most people just talk, but they don't connect, and there's a huge difference. So if we can help you or support you in any way, just let us know.
Can we thank Legend and Dr. President Founder Sarah Hummel, please? Thank you all. I'm going to mention two things really briefly before we, she just left you right up here, didn't she? Here, how about you hold this? She just walked away. I appreciate it. This is our serve-a-thon that is going on right now. If you own a business, know someone that owns a business, or want to be a part in some way, please check out our website, and you can ask Sarah tonight about more related to that. That's coming up very soon. That's a fundraiser for the college. All right, so that's number one. Number two, we have the sort of grand opening ribbon cutting for our location. We are off of Norview Avenue. Woohoo! God has blessed us so much with this amazing building right in the 5 Points area, and we would like to invite anybody who'd like to come to support it to our ribbon cutting. That's going to be October 21st. I think it's at 11:30. It's in conjunction with, there's a new park going in right across the street from the church where we're located, and so they're going to do a ribbon cutting as well, and then the mayor of Norfolk is going to come over and do our ribbon cutting. So there's going to be media there and all kinds of good stuff. So we would love to have you join us at that. All right, did I miss anything? Dr. President, Founder, Bestie, all the things. Okay, all right. Did you want to say anything to close this up? All right.
Yeah, can we give him a hand clap for Jason? Thank you so much, Judge Schubert, and everyone for your leadership and your coaching tonight. I just wanted to say one thing before we finish up. Don't walk out of here and think because you don't have a formal leadership position or you're comfortable with where they're at in your life that none of this matters. Because the one thing I want you to think about is they talked about what leadership is. It's influence, right? The definition of influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something. So to me, that means everything we say and do when we interact with each other could have an effect on the other person. So you may not think that you have a formal role, but what you say matters. And what you do matters. And so if we treat each other as if we value each other, then we're going to have a positive influence on each other. But if we think because I'm not in a position I can say whatever I want, you're going to have a negative influence on someone's life. So let's walk out of here. If you don't think anything else, you grab from it. I hope that you grab more because there was so much good stuff tonight. But if you don't grab anything else, your actions matter. And we're called to be a light. And so we're called to positively influence people around us. So take some time to evaluate. Am I positively influencing the people in my life? Do they run away from me, or do they run to me? Because I'm positively influencing them. Because there are some people like say, well, I'm just a realist. I tell people what's true. No, you're a jerk sometimes. And that's why nobody wants to be around you. That's not how we're called to be. We're called to be a positive influence in people's lives so that they go, wow, it was really good to meet you. So let's walk out of here encouraged tonight that if there are areas of our lives that we are not positively influencing, let's take some time and let God lead us in that. And so if there are questions that you have that you think of, I know that the team and anybody at C-Point would love to answer those questions. It's an honor to be a part of this institution, and I appreciate you guys for being here tonight. There's more food, I think, so if you guys want to get some food, go see the table, talk to anyone tonight. If you have questions, please do so. But thank you guys so much for being here tonight. God bless you.